part of the Dodd-Frank legislation that was passed a number of years ago was the creation of Legal Entity Identifiers, or LEIs. LEIs were supposed to identify institutions and organizations that were in the financial markets, mostly around swaps, to try to get a better understanding across all the different brokers, across all the different entities, what kind of risk did they have on the books, so that the Office of Financial Research, or OFR, could aggregate this information and see that, ABC, had too much risk, or, XYZ was fully balanced. With me to discuss LEIs and where we are and some of the challenges and issues with the LEI project is Steve Goldstein. Steve is the CEO of alacra. alacra is a data management company. Steve, welcome to TabbFORUM.
Thanks very much, Larry.
So, where are we with LEIs? We have a mandate of developing LEIs. We're starting to get the DTCC and I think other organizations involved with developing a database. Are we there yet?
We're making slow but steady progress. Right now there are about a dozen what we call local operating units that are essentially registrars for entities to acquire a legal entity identifier, or an LEI. The DTC and SWIFT were the first, but now there are a number of other ones throughout Europe, and there are a handful of others that are supposed to come on board. So we're making progress in terms of allowing entities to be able to register for an LEI, and I think currently there's about 250,000 entities that have been assigned an LEI.
Okay, cool. So we're making a little bit of progress. Now, the challenge, however, I think, is that the data quality isn't necessarily as clean as we would have liked to see, is it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of challenges with the data quality. Essentially, each one of the LOUs has a different data format right now, which they're trying to correct. A number of entities have been assigned LEIs that probably don't need them. And in many cases, the data has not been validated or verified. So you sort of have a mixed bag of quality. As you probably are aware, the quality of an overall database is just as strong as the weakest link. So there's a bunch of issues here with the overall LEI database. But I think once we get to this common format and get a little bit further down the line, we'll be able to fix a lot of the data and make sure that it's a high quality database.
So one of the big issues I understand is that is also around the ability to aggregate entities. TABB Group may have 27 subs. What I should be able to do is link together these subs into a parent company of TABB Group and be able to see, well, what are Larry's 27 entities doing? Is that really doable?
Yeah, I think that's a really long way off right now. I don't think that the structure is in place whereby it's going to be easy to do roll-ups or aggregation of risk across an entity with multiple subsidiaries. So if you take, for example, and it would be BlackRock, I don't know, they probably have the most entities registered of any financial institution. And pretty much the only way you can tell it's a BlackRock entity is because BlackRock is in the name of the entity. So if there's an entity that doesn't have BlackRock in its name, it could be related to BlackRock, but you would never know it. There's a bunch of issues that are going to take a very, very long time to work out with regard to hierarchies or organizational structures to do comprehensive and accurate risk roll-ups. Right now, the database is fit for a single purpose, and the single purpose is swaps, derivatives reporting that's required by the CFTC and by EMIR in Europe. Other than that, it's not providing a lot of benefit or value to anyone else. So for this particular purpose, which is a regulatory mandate,
so basically for the purpose of me sticking something in a field, it works.
Right, and you can meet your regulatory requirements, and that's what it does. And so hopefully, in the future, there's going to be other regulatory requirements. So you're going to be, financial institution will need to use this identifier for other purposes.
So Steve, the LEI was actually supposed to put you out of business. Wasn't it supposed to link together all these entities and create clean database of all the different entities out there? Isn't that kind of what you guys do?
Yeah, I think that idealistically, what financial institutions, what the regulators wanted was to not have the mapping problem that everyone has today, where different publishers and different regulators use different entity identifiers for each entity. So it could be a rating agency issuer ID, it could be a regulatory ID like the FCA's FRN number or the RSS ID from the Fed, or any other publisher's number, a DUNS number, a OneSource ID, a Dow Jones ID. But the LEI is pretty far from being able to do that just because the coverage is not complete.
The data's not clean.
The data's not clean. Yeah, there's a whole
There's
bunch
no
of issues.
hierarchy.
There's no hierarchy, so none of that is going to get in the way of alacra's mapping business, which is used throughout the street.
Well, I'm here with Steve Goldstein, CEO of alacra, which is still in business, talking about LEI and some of the challenges and issues in terms of getting a legal entity identifier out into the market and properly enforced around the street. I want to thank you, Steve, for joining us. I want to thank TabbFORUM viewers for joining us as well. I'm Larry Tabb, founder and CEO of TABB Group, and thanks again.
Thank you, Larry.